All right. Hi, everybody. My name is James Major. I'm with RMS, River Management Society, and we'd like to welcome y'all today to our dam removal and mitigation trends and new norms river management roundtable with Lisa Hollingsworth Sedgety and Ty Stevenson. And um, we are going to get going here just in a, just now. Um, this is our river management roundtable. We do one every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month or second Tuesday of the month, and would open to anyone who studies, manages, and protects rivers. It's free to join. You don't have to be a member, but we do encourage you to become an RMS member. We're a member-driven community of river professionals that um, we do symposium and we have trainings and roundtables and all kinds of really great stuff for our members. So we encourage you to do that. Before we put in, we are recording the session, and so anybody that signed up today will be sending that out to you soon. Um, uh, we'd like to see you. Put your webcam on, but do please mute unless you are speaking. And then questions, you can put them in the chat. And our presentation today will be about half an hour or so, so we'll have lots of time for questions and discussion when we talk to our presenters. And we ask you to contribute respectfully, to um, respect everybody, and keep comments concise and relevant. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Lisa and Ty, and they're both from American Rivers, and they're going to talk to us about dam trends and mitigation uh, as it is today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing and hand it over to Lisa.
Lisa, you're
Lisa.
muted.
Of course I am. All right. Thank you very much. Come on. There we go. All right. So I'm glad to be with you today. Thanks, James, for inviting us. Super excited to tell you a little bit about dam removal and specifically what the dam problem is, in case you were wondering. So a little bit about American Rivers. We're a nationwide nonprofit to deliver on our mission. We protect wild rivers, we restore damaged rivers, and conserve clean water for people and wildlife. And you may know some of our things that we offer. The wild and scenic river protection work that we do is how we started back in 1973. Every year we release a list of the 10 most endangered rivers in the US. These are rivers that are facing a challenge or a decision locally. So we try to shine a spotlight on that through the Most Endangered Rivers program. And then we also have a national dam removal community of practice. And if you are interested in connecting with that, you can certainly email me and I'll make sure that you get added to our list. And we try to get together regularly and just do what we can to elevate the practice. So, a little bit about dam removals. So I'll be introducing this, and then I'll turn things over to Ty, and he will talk a little bit about, in a little more detail, about the work that we're doing on water trails in Pennsylvania. So this is specifically low-head dams. Storage dams, as you know, are probably are a totally different beast. But let's just say we're out in nature and everything is untouched and unspoiled. It's in pristine condition. And so we've got a river and it's got healthy substrate on the bottom and everything, natural flow. You've got seasonal variations in flow that provide the triggers for the species as needed. And there's a nice population of native fish, and they're really happy here in this watershed. And then somebody gets the big idea that they need water, so they build a low-head dam. And low-head dams, as you know, only raise the water level. And primarily they raise the water level to flood something, either a mill race or an intake for water supply or industrial water or something along those lines. So the dam is built and now there's a barrier in the river and the fish can't move upstream. So we have a fish passage issue. And then the fish start to notice that things are changing because it's what I call the kiddie pool effect. Um, that water sits out in the sunshine and it doesn't have the current flowing. It's slowed down. The thermal profile changes. And so the river starts getting very warm. And that kind of is a disadvantage for those native species. And then you get, of course, a sediment wedge that starts piling up behind that low head dam because you've interrupted the flow. And then you get invasive species that start to grow because that condition now favors that. And just want to point out this looks suspiciously like corn. Um, and then we have native fish that come in, and they are super happy because what used to be a river now is an environment that favors the invasive species over the natives, excuse me. And so if you look on the right-hand side, there's an entire list of all the changes that occur in a river simply because somebody builds a low-head dam. And these are the issues that we're trying to solve as we look at removing low-head dams. So, when we're starting to make a case for removing a dam, either with a community, a dam owner, regulatory agencies, whoever we're working with, the first thing we have to look at is fish passage. So, migratory fish, of course, we've had a lot of loss of population. Um, so it's a problem, but also for non-migratory or what we call river resident species. And brook trout is called out here, but small-bodied fish that are freshwater mussel hosts are specifically at risk for fish passage issues at dams. And so we're finding that we're losing freshwater species at an accelerated rate, even faster than saltwater species. So let's just solve the problem by putting a fish ladder on our dam, right? That'll take care of everything. Except fish ladders are rather expensive to build. They don't target all species and all life cycles. So they may pass adult fish, but they won't pass juvenile fish. And so far, there's been no fish ladder engineered that can pass the small-bodied fish that host freshwater mussels. There's been a lot of effort to move those fish in various countries in the world, and it's just not effective. So that's not a great solution for most species. Um, now let's, oh, excuse me, I have just messed up because I'm trying to move this so I can read my slide. There we go. All right, I've got y'all moved to the other side of my screen. So, American Rivers has found with the first removal of the Edwards Dam in 1999 on the Kennebec River in Maine that once you remove the barrier that doesn't belong there, a river can start restoring itself. And so we commonly say that there's no faster or more effective way to bring a river back to life than removing a dam. And of course, the more dams on a river that exist, if you can get 100% habitat connectivity, reconnection again, then you're in even better shape. Another reason for removing dams is just the age of the dam. So the dams are old, they aren't serving a purpose that they were built to originally provide. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. But yeah, these dams have been around forever. They provided a water to a mill, in some cases to a water supply. I see a lot of water supply dams in Pennsylvania where I work that the dams previously provided drinking water, but because of the age of the treatment works, the regulatory agency no longer allows that dam to be used. So I've been taking out old water supply dams quite a bit recently. Um, Dams are aging and they pose a risk of failure. According to the records that we have, 1,321 dam failures in the past 80% of which was in the past 20 years. And up at the top, you see on the top left, that's the Oroville spillway that made headlines a few years ago. It had never been tested since it was first built in the 1970s. And then they had huge flows and then realized that the spillway was inadequately designed. The top right is a picture of a failed dam after a hurricane in Massachusetts. And then, of course, the young men in the bottom right-hand corner are making a public statement about how they feel about a dangerous dam in their community. Um, Dams can be attractive nuisances. On the top right, that's the Bloaty Dam. And every time I look at this picture, my heart skips a beat because the danger that these kids have put themselves in playing on something that looks like fun. Um, we have a dam in Pennsylvania that where 31 people have drowned. It's the Dock Street Dam, and Ty and I are working on helping the community understand the benefits of getting that dam out. But a lot of people don't realize that dams are dangerous. They think, oh, this is a waterfall, this is a play feature. And 1,400 people in the country have died at low-head dams in the United States. It's a serious problem. This is a failed dam in Hawaii that was breached right before I came to work at American Rivers. There were a number of deaths. The dam owner was sentenced to time in jail. So the liability is a real thing at failed dams. This owner in Hawaii knew his dam was deficient and chose to do nothing about it. And his choice had some deadly consequences. More recently in Michigan, the Edenville Dam failure put the hydropower operator, Boyce Hydro, liable for $119 million in property losses and damage as a result of that dam failure. Um, Environmental justice is also another motivating factor, and by now you've all heard the story of the Klamath Dam that took more than 20 years to get four dams out in the upper part of the watershed. And and the main reason was for food security and cultural values for the tribes that depended on the river. And of course, last year in 2025, um, teenagers from the indigenous tribes in the area paddled for the first time ever 310 miles on the Klamath River with those four dams out. So this is just a huge success story about dam removal for environmental justice. So, just summarizing things, we've seen a lot of deaths at low head dams. We've had a lot of failures, an average of 24 each year. And the most common reason to get a dam out, excuse me, I apologize. Um, the overall dam safety. If a dam is out of compliance and an owner has to make the choice between removing the dam or repairing it, that dam safety becomes the most common incentive for removing it. So a little bit about dams in Pennsylvania. This is from aquaticbarriers.org. Um, I just got the numbers back. We've just tallied our dam removals. We keep an interactive dam removal map on our website, americanrivers.org. Pennsylvania is the number one dam removing state in the nation. We've removed 432 dams as of 2025, and this is approaching 15% of the dams that were on the dam safety database, which we're finding out is not complete. Um, Ty and I found a couple of dams just recently that were not in the database, so we know that there are some shortcomings in the record keeping. So currently, that leaves us with about 2,800 dams that are remaining in the database, and of those, 75% don't meet their purpose. Um, Only 5% of the dams that remain provide navigation or flood control. So a lot of people will say, oh, well, why would you want to take out this dam? It protects me from flooding. Well, that's not necessarily true. And now I'm going to sort of turn a little bit from general dam removal to something specific, and that's our water trails in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have, as you can see, about 2,300 miles of dams, not of dams, excuse me, of water trails in the Commonwealth. In three basins, we have the Ohio Basin, which has 14 trails, the Susquehanna, that has 14 trails, and the Delaware Basin that has four trails. Um, and they all have a dam problem because there are dams on almost every single water trail. There are a couple of dams that are or a couple of water trails that are constrained by dams. The route was actually shortened to avoid taking in an impounded reach of the river so that there would be an issue with portage or safety. So our work has provided three free-flowing water trails, total of 92 miles out of the 2,300. So the North Branch Susquehanna River Water Trail, Conowongo Creek, and the Raystown branch of the Juniata River. Yeah, as I mentioned, nearly every water trail has dams, and Ty and I are going to be tackling that coming up soon. Um, and in addition, nearly every water trail that has a dam there's been an injury or a drowning that has occurred there. So safety is a big concern for Pennsylvania water trails. The state actually um, is doing a lot of work trying to attract people to come out and recreate in nature. And if there's a dam on that water trail, that's kind of a hazard waiting to happen. So just a couple of examples of some of the dams that we've removed. Connoquenessing Creek is a little north of Pittsburgh. This is kind of an ad hoc water trail. It's not officially in the system, but it's highly used for paddling and for fishing. And this was a dam that provided electric power to the Pittsburgh Short Line Railroad back when we had trolley cars in the area. And so this dam was removed in 2009. It was the first dam removal construction that I oversaw. And you can see what the site looks like without the dam. This was immediately after construction. And if you look on the far side, you can see kind of a little white triangle on that retaining wall. And that's where the dam was actually connected to that retaining wall. And there's a railroad track above there. So that's why we left that wall adjacent to the river rather than trying to protect that. And then this is what it looked like the following year. So as you can see, that's made a big improvement. And then I'm not going to read these to you, but these are the benefits of removing that dam. Um, One of the things that I tell people when you're talking about rivers and the improvements that you make, you always provide a list of those because inevitably it's more than what people think that you get from removing a dam. And then as another quick example, this is Wolf Creek, which is also north and west of the city of Pittsburgh. And this dam was removed prior to my coming onto the staff at American Rivers. Two children had drowned at this dam, and the community was at risk of losing their liability insurance as a result. So that was the motivator for this dam coming out. And here's what it looks like with the dam gone. And the benefits again here. The main thing was that the borough was able to, local government was able to keep its liability insurance, and they also experienced a reduction in flood hazard because of this dam being removed. So there's a lot of good news here. Another important thing is that the local university that was right next to where this dam was located started using Wolf Creek as their outdoor laboratory for their biology students. And in the first 2 years after the dam was removed, they documented a five-fold increase in biodiversity. So that was significant and exciting, and it became an important new part of the curriculum on the campus. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Ty.
Thanks, Lisa. I'll start sharing my screen. Sorry, the banner's in the way. Hold on. All right. All right, and you guys can not see the notes, right?
Correct.
Great. All right. Sorry, my camera turned off. Okay. So just with Lisa, I'll be talking about how to get started with dam removal and some common questions associated with that. Before I really get started with that, though, I want to acknowledge how we got to water trails in the first place. We've all seen pictures of the Cuyahoga and other rivers catching fire before more stringent and much needed environmental regulations were passed. And it's really a remarkable turnaround that a river could go from one that repeatedly caught on fire to one that is now a water trail and shows how much rivers can recover when given a chance to. And as a water trail, the Cuyahoga is now a place that the community actively promotes and invite folks to come recreate and enjoy the public resource. And they're in the process of removing, so here's the Cuyahoga now, and now they're in the process of removing the Gorge Dam, one in a series of dams that has been removed on the Cuyahoga. And unfortunately, physical remnants of this past remain in the rivers. Like Lisa said, in Pennsylvania, where we've been doing research on dams on Pennsylvania water trails. 77 man-made barriers exist on our state's water trails, with approximately 30 of those not serving any purpose or not serving the originally intended purpose of the dam. And on this map, the yellow triangles are FERC, flood control, or navigational lock dams, but all the red dots are low-head dams, many of which are not serving any purpose. And Lisa just reviewed all of the reasons that this is problematic, not the least of which is voter safety on a river we are promoting as a water trail and promoting people to come use. And tragically, at least 50 people have died on dams or at dams at one water trails in Pennsylvania. So this is a real problem here. Luckily, as you might have guessed, there's a solution to these ecological and safety issues. We can remove these dams. And the practice of dam removal that was once unheard of is now becoming more common, and techniques and practices more honed. At American Rivers, we imagine a future where our water trails are free-flowing and safe for everyone. And I want to take a moment for everyone to imagine their favorite water trail, free of barriers, and what that would look like and mean for your communities. And here's this is the Susquehanna River. This is the Oakland Dam removal that Lisa helped with a lot a few years ago. So these old dams come in various sizes and constructions, which makes every removal project unique. This is the Dock Street Dam in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This is the deadliest low-head dam in the country by number of fatalities. Um, and this dam was built to cover up sewage outflow pipes from Harrisburg when we were still dumping a lot of raw sewage into our rivers. So now it's just there as a low-head dam on the river, and it's not serving its original purpose. And obviously, this would be a huge project and a huge removal process if we were to take out this dam. This is the Indian Head Dam on the Perkiomen Creek. This is the dam that Lisa was referring to earlier, that the water trail had to be shortened so that because of this dam, because there's no portage around it, and obviously it's a much smaller dam, it would be a little bit easier to remove, present different difficulties. And here's another dam on the Yellow Breeches Creek Water Trail in Pennsylvania. This is a diversion dam, which is diverting water to another old mill dam. And the owner is interested in removing these dams, but he's concerned that if you remove one, that it might dewater the other channel. So these are all things that are different concerns for each dam removal project, and each project is going to be different and present different hurdles and challenges. So I want to go over, since in the time we have today, I don't have time to cover all the steps in detail of a dam removal project. I want to touch on a few things that may make people feel intimidated to start one. This being cost, the public response, or dealing with the public, the time investment, and the first steps in how to get started on a dam removal project. So in terms of cost, 3 points of good news on this front. Firstly, dam removal is almost always cheaper than the cost of repairing the dam or the cumulative cost of continually repairing the dam over time. And it is usually a fraction, small fraction of the cost. It's also a one-time expense. So you spend the money to remove the dam, and then obviously you don't have to maintain a structure that's not there anymore. Secondly, there are often funding sources to tap into to help fund dam removal that are not available for the repair of a dam. So even if you're looking at similar costs between removal and repair, the removal can end up being, maybe free because of funding opportunities for dam removal. And thirdly, dam removal funding can sometimes bring funding along with it to fund surrounding projects such as park improvements, boat launches, and floodplain projects. So it really can be a, expanding impact besides just the removal of the dam. In a case study here in Bedford, Pennsylvania, this is the Raystown Branch Juniata River Water Trail. Um, these are the costs of design, permitting, construction, and all of this was of no cost to the town and covered by funding that American Rivers helped secure. Part of this is because the Raystown Branch Juniata River is in a SWIM, it's an acronym, priority watershed, and which is priority for migratory species. So just take note of what watersheds and what species are in your waterways that may have funding associated with it that could contribute to the process. In terms of public response, first I want to say that our two biggest tools in engaging with the public are listening and respect. People often have emotional ties to a dam, and the best thing we can do is listen to them and hear their concerns. To that point, there are two types of public concern. The first is fact-based, and it's important to have all information you need when you go to the public so that you can address these concerns with the necessary information. And the second type is value-based, which you can't make better with facts. We just have to listen to people when they have emotional ties and concerns with the dam removal. That said, it's important to think about who you need to consult and do outreach with on a dam removal project. If it's a dam off in the woods with one private owner and no public visibility, you may not need to do a huge, big public engagement campaign. But if it's a very visible public project, it's important to consult other community organizations and representatives from different groups that may be impacted to get their perspective and concerns, even if they're opposed to dam removal. So I have two case studies here. First is the Brantsville dam removal that American Rivers just did this past winter. This is on Yellow Bridges Creek Water Trail. And even though this is a relatively small derelict dam, the process ended up being really long because when this project was first identified, the owners were not on board with removal. So we had to wait over a decade for removal to change and for new owners to be interested in dam removal. And so both sides of the dam were on private property, and in that sense, kind of the dam had two owners. And for this project, you can kind of see it in the corner of the picture on the right. Um, but a piece of the dam abutment was left in place um, at the request of one of the owners, and so this is an example of how certain compromises or um, consultations with owners have to be met sometimes to get a project finished. On the other hand, the Dock Street Dam, which I mentioned before, is a huge dam and right in the center of the capital of Pennsylvania. And so if we were to do a dam removal project with Dock Street, we would consult many community organizations before the project started to get a sense of where concern was and how we could address those before the project got started. And it's really important to identify benefits and help community members and people around the dam to imagine not what they're losing from dam removal, but what they could gain. You're usually gaining land when the water level is reduced. So maybe there's more boat access, maybe there's more parks that come with the dam removal. So in terms of time commitment and support, usually a dam removal project has a project manager who fills many different roles, from dam and owner liaison to developing the team and hiring consultants. But also, every project is a collaboration with many partners. Maybe you live near or your river is near um, some American Rivers people and they could help with the project. Or, we always partner with local conservation groups. Um, this is a dam removal in Western Pennsylvania, where we often partner with the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, who can do mussel surveys for us and riparian plantings. So it's important to think about these projects as a big collaborative effort on even a small dam removal project. There's usually many, many partners involved. And so, you know, your organization may not have to take on every aspect of the project. Lastly, now that you know a little bit more about dam removal, I'd like to talk about the first steps and how you can learn more. So there's a national inventory of dams, which has a map and database, but also aquaticbarriers.org is much more comprehensive with a lot of smaller barriers. Um, and that also has a prioritization tool. This is a screenshot on the left from aquaticbarriers.org, and just some of the stuff you can learn. This is just a snapshot of it, but oftentimes they have the age of the dam, how it's or its construction materials, what type of dam it is, and also talks about which species would benefit from moving it, and shows you how many river miles would be freed from removing the dam. Also, ownership can be investigated on county parcel maps. Most counties have a GIS map that you can access to look at who owns parcels on the map. And also you can oftentimes request files on dams from a state dam safety office. And this can tell you a lot about how the dam was built, um, its history of violation, any notice of violations, and correspondence with the owners. So by, requesting records from public offices, you can learn about that would help you in figuring out if this dam is worth removing and or I shouldn't say worth removing, but easy to remove. What would be your hurdles? Also, I want to promote American Rivers has free dam removal trainings that are hosted in different regions at different times, multiple times during the year, for people interested in becoming project managers on dam removals. And there's also lots of resources that we can send out after this um, presentation on how to get started and what your tools are. So lastly, I'd like to return to our dam from earlier, the Oakland Dam. This was a huge dam, and many felt like it was, never going anywhere. But every dam is temporary, and it took people imagining a different, safer, and more vibrant future for their water trail to get this dam out. And it was possible, and it was removed. Um, so I want everyone to feel like this is a possibility. This is something we can do, and we can do together. So thank you for being here today, and I hope Lisa and I can answer your questions.
Thanks, Ty, and thanks, Lisa. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to come off mute and or raise your hand, um, and we will welcome discussion. We have a question in the chat. What is your experience with dealing with upstream landowners that may like or enjoy the impoundment created by a dam that they do not own downstream? Are there any rules or legal considerations around this?
So I'm going to jump in and just give you my perspective on that. We've had so many times when we call the folks that like the dam but don't own it abutters because their property abuts the dam, abuts the impoundment. They basically have been enjoying the benefits of the dam without any responsibility for being the permitted owner, having to maintain the dam. And they usually want somebody else to keep that dam for them. That project that I showed you under the bridge in Grove City. where the two kids died. People in that community were totally up in arms because they wanted the local government to maintain that dam for their pleasure. Um, and it was really all about nostalgia and the fear of change. So that one, I mean, there was a very steely local government manager who said, this is about business, and the borough cannot be um, in a position of not having insurance. So they just made the decision, and that was that. He actually offered the dam for sale to anybody that wanted to buy it for $1 up until the time the meeting, that public meeting ended at 11 p.m. And there was no one that put $1 on the table at that point. So the dam came out. In other cases, we've done things, and this will probably come up at Dock Street Dam that Ty showed you. We will have to do an inventory of other flat water recreation within a 15-mile radius of that location, a 30-mile radius of that location, so that people can understand, yeah, they might not have that at that location any longer, but there is other safe flat water recreation at other places that are nearby. So it's hearing what people care about the most. Um, but the bottom line is to circle back to answer that question, the person who owns the dam, who has the permit, it is their decision for how anybody would, if they want to remove the dam or not. If somebody upstream enjoys that and they want to help that dam owner maintain or repair that dam, that would be an arrangement for the two of them to work out. But under the law in most states in the United States, if the dam owner wants the dam to come out, then they have that right to do that, regardless of what anybody else thinks.
Awesome. Kate asks, she says, here in Massachusetts, we have a lengthy permitting for dam removals. What other states can we look to for the best models?
So in Pennsylvania, we have a restoration waiver, which functions like a joint state federal permit. And the reason we have that, for one reason, is that we had some pretty far-thinking officials. We had the first actual dam removal, not dam removal, excuse me. We had the first actual dam safety program in the nation. And that was because we had a couple of pretty big dam failures that killed a lot of people before the turn of the century, before the 1900s. So we had the earliest program, and so we actually predated federal standards for dam safety. And that's one of the reasons that we have this program. But basically, it's a streamlined process with a recognition that dam removal is a short-term impact with long-term benefits, that it's a one-time expenditure. It alleviates all of the liability on the dam owner because the structure is removed. Um, and it's a very simple process. If it's a publicly owned dam, it's free to apply for a dam removal permit. And there are requirements in terms of what the plan has to include. It has to include erosion and sedimentation. It has to include what the stream channel in cross-section and longitudinal profile will look like when the dam comes out. You have to identify any issues that could be unstable in the river, such as head cuts, or other concerns about the amount of sediment that would need to be moved. You would have to explain how you're going to address the sediment, how you're going to make the river width the proper width to go with the depth that results as a result of the dam coming out. Um, if it's a privately owned dam, it costs $500 to get your permit, which is very inexpensive. I know in Massachusetts and other states in New England, you have to go through the Corps of Engineers and use either a nationwide 23, which is an aquatic restoration permit, or a nationwide, I think it's 50, 66, 56. Anyway, that one specifically for the removal of low head dams. But the restoration waiver has really made it very easy. And I think when you see the number of dams removed in Pennsylvania compared to other states, it's obvious that the restoration waiver really is driving our success in removing dams.
Awesome. Thank you. Matthew asked, what is your advice to proponents of building new dams?
Ah, that's yeah. Honestly, a dam that's already there should probably be, if it's possible, to recapitalize that rather than building new dams. You know, you've already got an alteration, hydrologic alteration in one place. You know, try to better use the lands dams that are on the landscape. Dam removal permits, or excuse me, dam construction permits are a lengthy process, and they're hard to get permitted, and they're expensive. So American Rivers recommends to do whatever you can with the existing infrastructure, upgrade that, keep it maintained, rather than building new.
Excellent. Jared asked, have you had much success working with various departments of transportations? We have a Lowhead Dam just upstream of a highway bridge that has taken many lives.
Um, the dam that I showed you underneath the bridge is, you know, obviously a connection. We had to work with Department of Transportation. The main thing you have to look at is what is the river substrate likely to change? What kind of impacts would that be if you've got a dam either upstream or downstream of a bridge? So you have to worry about like scour on the foundation of the bridge. So doing a HEC-RAS during design will give you the answers that you need with that. I've done 7 dam removals in Pennsylvania that have been PennDOT, have been mitigation projects for road building. So in our case, working with DOT is a super easy process. Um, the um, the Dock Street Dam that Ty showed you, it is immediately above the Interstate 83 bridge. You could see it just on the left side of the photo. And we're hoping that we can advance dam removal so that the dam removal construction can occur while the river is coffered off for the bridge replacement that's due to start in a couple of years.
And then we have a couple of folks that have agricultural question. So how would you handle a dam removal that is nearing the end of its engineered life, but supports regional agriculture and is generally the sole irrigation water source for those operations?
Um, Is this in the eastern US under riparian rights or the western US under water rights? That's really important to answer that question.
Yeah, I think the original poster is from Colorado.
Okay.
So that would
Um,
be
yeah, I can refer you to Matt Rice. You can reach him at mrice at americanrivers.org. He works in Colorado and would be very knowledgeable to answer your question. I know here in the eastern US, riparian rights makes a totally different ball game from out west. Um, and again, it all depends on the water rights and how those are applied.
well, the other person that asked the same question is from the eastern US.
Okay.
They wrote
From the
in.
eastern US, I would say you would probably need to do an economic analysis. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy to look at what's the benefit of agricultural irrigation versus the liability for the dam. And, you know, just do it based on dollars and cents. It wouldn't make sense if there's another source of water supply that's cheaper to spend a lot of money rehabbing a dam that's reaching the end of its life. On the other hand, you may have a dam that's reaching the end of its useful life because it's filling up with sediment, and you've lost the amount of water that you could normally get for irrigation. So there's a lot of details you would have to take into consideration.
Excellent. Uh, So Jeff wants to know, do you know of any dam removals that have been used as compensatory stream mitigation credits as a funding mechanism?
Yes, I mentioned the 7 dams that I did as for mitigation credit for road building. I've also done a dam removal for mitigation credits for commercial development. So that's super, it's really straightforward as long as your state has a mitigation banking system. And so that's an instrument that has to go through um, the Corps of Engineers, and they have to have standards. They have to be pre-approved, and usually once you set up that mitigation system, you also have an opportunity to do in lieu fee mitigation banking. And we've had a couple of really big projects that have been undertaken um, uh, by basically investors, and then they have made their interest back on selling the credits to recoup their cost.
Awesome. And then Matt asks if there are case studies of dam removal in urban environments facing increasing stormwater issues, which to which Ty has responded with off the top of his head, Montpelier, Vermont is trying to remove their dam in the center of town because of flooding concerns. Do you have, I don't know if you want to add anything else there, Lisa?
Um, yes, actually, I've removed several dams that have included a river restoration component, excuse me, a floodplain restoration component. So the dams at Bedford that we removed on the water trail, um, the because of the dams, the river was 200 feet wide. The original, what the river width should be through that reach is 50 feet wide. So when we removed those 2 dams and restored the river to a 50-foot width, that provided a lot of flood storage. And we're getting ready to start doing some tree planting in that newly recovered floodplain area. And that is probably going to allow that community to go through the letter of map revision process through FEMA and get part of their downtown out of the flood zone.
That's cool. Matthew asks, does American Rivers have guidance for designing free-flowing diversion dams to mitigate dam barriers?
I'm not familiar with a free-flowing diversion dam.
Matthew,
Uh,
if you want to come on
you
and
want to jump on and explain a little bit more?
Sure, happy. So previously, American Rivers had a whole series on free-flowing diversion dams. They were retrofit to existing low-head dams, primarily, although they did address structures up to maybe 20 meters in height uh, that were artificially engineered. Uh, uh, you know, diversion structures where they could maintain a pool level and create artificial channels to support fish habitat um, through hydraulic engineered river channel modifications. So they would design natural river features, boatable passage, and passage for fish. If you're in Denver, Colorado, and are familiar with the Platte River, South Platte that goes through town, they've done a couple of those. One is right next to the REI store there, if you're familiar with that. But there's been a number across Europe, and it's basically consists of siting. I've seen other examples where just siting a diversion structure on an existing pool level. Uh, Without doing any modification to the river channel can provide uh, a reasonable water diversion while maintaining all free flowing water, sediment, and recreational use and wildlife passage in the river channel. And with a lot of issues I deal with where there's, I'm working on rivers with that are facing a lot of new dam construction and new dam development. Um, and we're always interested in alternatives to dams that can try to balance the interests of river users and developers.
I This is something that I am not familiar with. Um,
Are
but
you,
if you'll post your email in the chat, I will do a little digging and see what I can find out for you.
are you talking
And
about like, yeah,
pardon, go ahead.
are Lisa like at like Sunbury, PA, or, like near Shamokin, the Shamokin power
Hmm.
plant, where they, is that what you're talking about? Like where they have like the dam is in place and they have a channel that goes around the dam that could provide fish passage or boat passage.
It could be. So what Ty is explaining, Matthew, is a like a bypass channel. So there's a Lowhead Dam that has a Fabra dam on the top. It's an inflatable dam, and they fill baffles with
Yeah.
water, and it raises the water level up for recreation. And so they have like a bypass channel around one side that is built to provide fish the opportunity to pass. Um, and it's sort of like a modified fish ladder to a certain extent. American Rivers does not support those because our purpose for dam removal is providing passage for all species and all life stages.
Hmm.
And with those artificial channels, you don't get that. You get passage of some fish. Um, another example is like looking at the fish channel up at the Bonneville Dam on the Columbia River. I was up there a few years ago, and it was a big deal because they were counting 70,000 spring Chinook that were
Right.
going around the dam. And honestly, it should have been 70 million, but it was a big win because they were getting 70,000 fish around the dam for the first time ever. And that's the reason that we feel like the artificial bypass channels are not the best solution. However, on the other hand, if you've got a dam that's providing a water supply or a hydropower, what falls into a class of critical uses, and that use can't be provided any other way, then that bypass channel may be your only option.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with the bypass channels and I've seen those inflatable barriers, which are not too impressive to me either.
Mm-mm,
Um,
no.
and yeah, yeah, we've been trying to advocate more for, whole river channel passages that maintain, free flow connectivity while having a diversion structure, that a lateral diversion structure in place along the side of the
Mhm.
river in an area that has a natural pool level maintained, um, or that can be created without a river-wide dam barrier. But
Okay.
there, yeah, American Rivers used to have a whole database on these. Throughout the US, Canada, and Europe. And yeah, I haven't seen those lately. And I was just wondering what happened to that um, initiative they had. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't want to
That
distract too much from this. I'll drop my contact in the chat, and you can we can take it from there.
that'll be great. I'll
Awesome.
be glad to do a little research for you.
Awesome. Thanks you, Matthew. So we have time for one more question. Risa asks, where are you finding funding for dam removal? And are most removal projects run through one fiscal agent like American Rivers, or are they most often implemented by several entities contributing money or in-kind services?
Um, let's see here. Ty, you want to start talking a little bit about the fundraising that we do while I write this email address down, and then I can jump in.
Yeah, so like some of them are can fund the entire project. Like in the Bedford Dams, I think most of it was funded by Chesapeake's small watershed grants. Like I said, that was associated with being a swim priority watershed. Um, but I think there are many projects that happen that are contributed to by multiple pots and multiple people working on the project. I think it's more rare, but at least you can talk to this, but more rare for something to be completely singularly funded by one funding source.
Mhm. Thank you. We use a number of funding strategies, Risa, and it really kind of depends on the partnerships that are available for us. Sometimes we jointly fundraise. Sometimes we'll phase a project, and one partner will raise money for the part that they do best. Maybe their thing is stream bank stability and riparian plantings. And so they'll do that piece of the work, and American Rivers will do the dam removal. In some cases, I've provided dam removal design and permitting as in-kind match for another partner that wants to do the dam removal on their own. And then I sort of give them technical assistance and guide them through to help them expand their capacity and start learning to take on dam removals. In other cases, it feels like we're just making a patchwork quilt, and I'm getting letters of support from anybody I can find, and pulling in money from several sources. So it really just depends on the circumstances and who's involved. And if the project is in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, we have some really great sources of funding there that we don't have in the Ohio basin. So it's just a matter of knowing the landscape and knowing your partners and how well can you collaborate to bring all the resources in. And yeah, but count on your partners to help you out.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
You're
Awesome. Thank
welcome.
you. So I want to share my screen real quick. We're almost at the bottom of the hour. Um, and we want to thank Lisa and Ty. This has been a great conversation, and their contact information is on your screen. So make sure
Mhm.
you write that down so you can reach out to them with any more questions that you might have. And I want to promote a couple of things that we're doing. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. So this conversation will be up on our YouTube channel shortly, and so you'll be able to go back and watch or share with folks you think that might be interested in this. And you can find lots of other really great water trails related um, content and a lot of scenic river content and just river content in general. So that's a good resource for all you folks. We have a lot of upcoming events. So every other month this year, we're doing a water trails based roundtable like the one we had today. Um, so we want to invite you to join those. But we also have other things going on. We have aquatic invasive species at hydro facilities. We have a hydropower toolkit for practitioners, Water Sink Rivers 101, and then our upcoming um, roundtables on recreational environmental dam releases and dam awareness and law enforcement and rescue operations. And then I want to especially highlight the Ohio River Basin Proud informational webinar. So if you're in the Ohio River Basin, and uh, many of you that are sometimes, the folks around you may not know that they're in the Ohio River Basin if they're in the Tennessee Basin or their upper headwaters of the Allegheny or some of the rivers in Pennsylvania and southern New York. So we're doing we want folks to co-brand their event with our Ohio River Basin Proud, and we're going to do an informational webinar on March 31st about what that looks like and what the benefits are, and we'll show you maps of the caucus. There's a Ohio River Basin caucus congressional thing. We're trying to reach out to the congressional folks and get them. So we want to recognize the Ohio River Basin, sort of like the Chesapeake Bay where the Great Lakes are, and they're not recognized as that now. So I want to do a special shout out to that. And then we also have a survey that I will add in the chat, and that you can put feedback on how we can improve or what you liked about it or what we need to do better. So I want to thank everybody for joining this river management roundtable, and thanks again to Lisa and Ty for the great talk.
Thanks everyone for coming.